The wind cut across the Wyoming plains like a knife, stealing whatever warmth the day had left. Dust swirled in low double whirls, rising and collapsing again as if the land itself was sighing. Night pressed close behind the fading sun, and the cold was already crawling over the rocks and sage. Asterisk Cal Mason tugged his coat tighter around him. Asterisk A. Poor cowboy didn't have much to his name, and Cal had even less. One horse, a patched bedroll, a tin cup, and a battered kettle tied to his saddle horn. But he still had a fire, and tonight, that felt like the greatest treasure on earth. Asterisk. He knelt near the dry creek bed, striking flint to steel until sparks leapt and disappeared. Finally, a thin curl of smoke rose. Then a flame. Then another. Cal sat back on his heels and exhaled. Good, he muttered. At least we'll eat warm tonight, Duke. Asterisk, his old sorrel gelding flicked an ear. Unimpressed, Cal smiled anyway. He was about to put a pot of beans over the flame when he heard it. A distant, thin sound that sliced through the heavy quiet of the plains. Asterisk, a child crying. Cal straightened. The cold wind carried it again, soft, frightened. Asterisk, where? He turned slowly, hand instinctively brushing the handle of his revolver. It wasn't a sound you ignored out here. Coyotes cried. Wolves cried, but that had been human. He waited, letting the night breathe. Then he saw movement, faint. Stumbling shapes emerging over the rise. A woman and a little girl clutching her skirts. Asterisk Cal rose immediately. Ma'am? He called out. Asterisk, the woman froze, holding her child behind her, as if unsure whether he was danger or salvation. Her dress was torn at the hem from walking. Dust streaked the fabric, and the little girl's cheeks were red from cold. Asterisk, I'm not going to hurt you. Cal said calmly, lifting his hands to show they were empty. Got a fire. You look cold. Asterisk, the woman hesitated. Then the little girl whimpered, burying her face in her mother's coat. That decided it. The woman stepped forward. Asterisk Cal motioned them toward his fire, keeping his voice gentle. Come on, then. You're safe. Asterisk, they walked into the light. And for a moment, Cal forgot how to breathe. Asterisk, the woman was beautiful. Not the fragile kind of beauty that wilted in harsh weather, but the kind that seemed carved out of quiet strength. Her dark hair escaped its pins. Her eyes were tired but sharp, intelligent. Her hands trembled from the cold as she guided her daughter closer to the warmth. Asterisk, the little girl, maybe 6 years old, looked up at him with wide hazel eyes. Mister, we're cold. Asterisk, I can see that, Cal said softly. He reached behind him and pulled his bedroll open. Sit, warm yourselves first. Food's comin'. The woman dropped to her knees beside the fire, pulling her child close. Thank you, she murmured. You have no idea how much this means. Asterisk Cal tipped his hat. Name's Cal Mason. A pause. Then the woman said, My name is Clara, and this is my daughter, Evelyn. Asterisk, pleasure to meet you both. Asterisk, he put his beans over the fire and handed down his canteen. Clara drank sparingly, giving most to her daughter. Asterisk Cal watched quietly. Something about the way she held the little girl. She was scared. She was hiding it well, but he saw it in the rigid set of her shoulders. Asterisk, you lost? Cal asked gently. Clara hesitated. Something like that. Asterisk, she didn't offer more, and he didn't pry. Not yet. If there was danger behind her, pressing her across this lonely stretch of prairie, he figured she'd tell him soon enough. Asterisk, the fire crackled. The scent of beans filled the cold night. Duke snorted softly behind them. Asterisk Evelyn finally relaxed enough to stretch her small hands toward the flames. Asterisk Cal smiled at her. Cold like this means winter's comin' quick. Asterisk, My mama said we couldn't wait for winter. The little girl replied quite seriously. She said we had to go now? Asterisk Clara closed her eyes, grief flickering across her face so fast Cal barely caught it. Asterisk. He sensed they weren't just travelers. They were running after they finished eating. Clara giving most of her portion to her daughter. Cal added more wood to the fire and finally spoke. Asterisk. You can rest here for the night, he offered. Safe enough spot. I'll keep watch. You don't have to do that, Clara said softly. Not much of a gentleman if I don't. Asterisk, she looked at him, studying him. Her gaze lingered longer than before. You're very kind, Cal Mason. Asterisk Cal shook his head. Just trying to help folks in need. And because you look like the saddest woman I've ever seen, he added silently. Evelyn fell asleep quickly. Clara pulled Cal's bedroll around her daughter's shoulders and whispered a faint, "Thank you." Asterisk Cal sat a few feet away, feeding the fire small sticks. Clara watched the flames, her hands wrapped around her knees. Asterisk, you want to tell me what happened? Cal asked gently. Asterisk Clara's chin trembled. She exhaled, SHKILY. My husband passed last month. Asterisk Cal's chest tightened. I'm real sorry. Asterisk, he left. A lot behind. A lot of expectations. A lot of eyes watching what I do and what I don't do. She stared into the fire. People don't like when a woman runs the company he built. They don't trust her to be more than a figurehead. Cal blinked. Company. She kept talking, voice fragile. And his brother, he insisted the company was his by right. He tried to take control of everything, including Evelyn. He said a woman couldn't raise a child and manage millions at the same time. Cal went still. Millions? Asterisk Clara's throat tightened. I didn't feel safe. I didn't know who I could trust. I just needed to disappear for a while. To breathe. She finally looked at him. Is that foolish? Asterisk, no, Cal said quietly. Sounds brave. Clara's eyes glistened. I didn't want money, she whispered. I just wanted peace for my daughter. Cal nodded slowly. You got it tonight. Asterisk, she gave him a small, heartbroken smile. Asterisk, you shared your fire with strangers. Asterisk, fire is meant to be shared. Asterisk silence stretched gently between them, not cold, not tense. Just human. Asterisk, Cal? Clara murmured after a long while. Asterisk, yeah. Asterisk, why are you alone out here? Asterisk Cal shrugged. Life's quieter this way. My folks passed young. No brothers. No sisters. Tried working ranches, but the owners barely kept them running. I get by doing odd jobs. Fix rail ties. Mend fences. The kind of work folks forget needs doing. Asterisk Clara tilted her head. You're a good man. Asterisk Cal laughed under his breath. Not sure about that. I am, she said simply. His heart did a strange, unfamiliar flip. Asterisk, the fire burned low. Stars stretched across the sky like spilled diamonds. Clara eventually leaned against the saddle Cal had set behind her, eyelids drooping. You should sleep, he murmured. She shook her head. Cal, I'm trusting you because I want to. Don't make me regret it. Asterisk, you won't, he said. Voice steady as a promise. Asterisk, she held his gaze a moment longer, then nodded and closed her eyes. Asterisk Cal kept watch, not because she asked, but because something inside him demanded it. Because for the first time in a long time, someone had handed him something tender, their trust, and he wasn't going to let anything happen to it. Asterisk hours passed. The wind softened. The cold relented. Just before dawn, Evelyn stirred and scampered over to him. Mr. Cal, she whispered. Asterisk. Asterisk, are you going to stay with us today too? Asterisk Cal chuckled. Depends what your mama wants. Asterisk Evelyn leaned closer. I want you to. He felt that small, innocent truth like a warm hand settling on his ribs. When Clara finally woke, her eyes found Cal first, as though she'd been dreaming he might vanish by morning. Asterisk. You stayed up, she murmured. Asterisk. Promised I would. Something bloomed softly in her expression. Cal, I don't know what we'll do today, she admitted. I didn't plan this far. Asterisk. I got a plan, Cal said, standing. We ride to town. There's a decent sheriff there. You tell him whatever you're comfortable telling. You'll be safe. Evelyn will be safe. Clara looked at him with something like relief and something deeper. You'd do that for us? Asterisk. Yeah, he said simply. I would. Asterisk. They packed a small camp. Cal lifted Evelyn onto Duke and helped Clara up behind her. He walked beside the horse, not wanting to crowd her. Asterisk. By noon, they reached the small town of Willow Bend. The sheriff listened, nodding slowly, and promised protection. He escorted them to the boarding house. Asterisk. Cal started to leave, because what place did a poor cowboy have in the world of a woman who talked about companies and millions? But then Evelyn came running out the door. Cal, Mama says you have to come eat with us. He froze. Clara appeared behind her daughter, smoothing her hair. Her eyes met Cal's, warm and steady. Asterisk. You shared your fire, she said softly. Let us share our table. For the first time in years, Cal felt something like belonging tug at him. He followed them inside. Days passed. Clara arranged papers with the sheriff, sent telegrams to trusted lawyers, and reclaimed her life piece by piece. Her brother-in-law's grip slipped when she exposed his threats. Support came pouring in from her husband's old partners. The company was hers legally. Safely. Cal kept meaning to ride on. He never did. Clara often found him, helping Evelyn braid her hair or fixing loose boards on the boarding house porch. He refused payment every time. One evening, after Evelyn had gone to bed, Clara stepped onto the porch where Cal sat whittling. You know, she said gently, I never told you what company I own. You don't need to, he replied. It's the largest cattle and land outfit in 3 states. Cal's knife paused. I'm the richest woman for 500 miles in every direction, Clara whispered. And you didn't know. Yet you gave us everything you had. Cal swallowed. I didn't need to know who you were, he murmured. Just that you and your little girl were cold. Clara stepped closer. And now? She asked softly. Now that you know? Cal met her gaze, warm, steady, unafraid. Still feel the same. Her breath caught. And how is that? Cal stood slowly, closing the distance between them. That I'd share my fire with you again. Every night. As long as you let me. Clara's eyes shone. I'd like that, she whispered. Cal reached out. Brushing his fingers lightly against hers, her hand slid into his. The porch lantern glowed softly behind them. Inside, Evelyn slept peacefully, safe and warm. The night wind carried no fear anymore. Clara leaned her head gently against Cal's shoulder. And for the first time since she'd fled into the dark plains with nothing but desperation and hope, she felt like she had finally come home.